Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 3060 Ti in Horizon Forbidden West. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers, and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU Z resizable bar is also enabled right there. And over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X3D with half of its cores disabled. So it's basically the same as a Ryzen 7 7800X3D and 32GB of DDR5 RAM at 6000 MHz in dual channel. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay, first up, let's go over the settings. I'm starting at 1080p resolution using DLAA, no upscaling at the moment, but we're also going to test some DLSS and higher resolutions as well. And I'm using the high settings preset right here. Now, pay close attention to that VRAM utilization, guys. It is right around 7.5 gigabytes, 7.7 at the moment. Okay, so this is why you can't really play at very high settings, or at least with very high textures, on GPUs with 8 gigabytes of memory in this game. 7.8 gigabytes, and I think it just swapped some things into the RAM, because RAM utilization went up, VRAM usage went down slightly over there, but it didn't stutter, so everything is fine still, okay? You can play with an 8 gigabyte card at high settings with high textures, aside from like older AMD GPUs, because the RX 580, for example, started stuttering quite a bit when I set it to the high textures with medium settings, not even high settings, everything. Anyways, as you can see, we're getting around like 60 to 70 frames per second in this Burning Shores area. The sun is actually going down. Oh, it looks beautiful once again, every single time, man. But yeah, compared to 12 gigabyte GPUs and even like the GTX 1080 Ti with 11 gigabytes of VRAM, that RAM utilization here with the RTX 3060 Ti is a little bit up there, okay? Those GPUs were using around 12 gigabytes of VRAM, sometimes dipping down to 11.9, sometimes going up to like 12.2. This is very, very close to 13 gigabytes, so it indicates that it swapped some things. Still, that's not the end of the world, guys. It just means that it could have had more performance had Nvidia given this GPU a little bit more VRAM, like 12 gigabytes on the 3060, for example. Oh boy, it's once again, a little bit of a shame right here. But you know what? I'm fine with this performance. It runs very well. It has a little bit of a stutter here and there, but it's not a problem. It's barely noticeable. It's not like a huge stutter anyways. So I could definitely play the game all day long like this. But the thing is, Nvidia also gave some RTX 40 series 8 gigabytes, like the 4060 Ti has an 8 gigabyte model, and the 4060 is also an 8 gigabyte GPU. And, ooh, nice. What did I just do here? Interesting. Okay. Oh boy, stop doing that to me. Thank you very much. Okay, there we go. Now, as I was saying, 8 gigabytes on 30 series, fine. You don't have frame generation, at least not through Nvidia's thingies, you know. With mods, you can actually get it. But frame generation actually utilizes a little bit more VRAM, and, well, those GPUs are already struggling with VRAM just to play this game at high settings. And you put frame generation on top of that, RAM utilization goes up to like 14 gigabytes, and the game starts like melting a little bit, you know. That's what I saw, at least with the 4060. However, some people have said that they were getting higher performance with frame generation with the RTX 4060 than what I showed, so maybe I should revisit it with FG alone, you know, the other results are accurate. Moving on, let's stop it right there. 72 FPS average, 1% lows of 60s. It never really drops from 60 FPS here, at least in this Burning Shores area of the game. And we've been to a little city as well with a lot of NPCs, a lot of things happening and buildings and stuff, and yeah, it doesn't really drop. Now, would you utilize DLSS quality here at the 1080p resolution? I wouldn't, because it looks a little bit worse, honestly. You need to lower the sharpness down to 0, because otherwise it just looks like crap, super over sharpened, unless you like that look, of course. But I feel like most people will like the sharpness to 0 a little bit better. And if you use DLSS, you can see it gets a little bit above 90 FPS, sometimes touching 100 frames per second, but I need to restart this because it's nighttime already. I don't like nighttime. By the way, I just restarted the game to reset set the VRAM and RAM utilizations. Should have done that on the 4060 video as well. Maybe I will test it out again with like frame generation in a different area. Anyway, let's start counting our FPS here. This is DLSS quality, which does look pretty nice. You know, it's not a bad implementation of DLSS. It's just that at 1080p, it makes the image look a little bit softer, and you lose a little bit of detail here and there. Still, if you fancy getting like 15 more FPS, 10 to 15 more frames per second, I guess. Sure, go ahead. Feel free to utilize DLSS. It will give you that. But since we got 60 plus FPS all of the time at native resolution and with DLAA enabled, I would just play like that because it looks very, very good, this game, with DLAA at native resolution, even at 1080p resolution. Also, look at that RAM utilization right here, 13.2 or 0.3 gigabytes of usage right there, almost. Yep, it is swapping some things. As you can see, VRAM is not stable. It's just goes down sometimes when RAM goes up, you know, and that just indicates that it is swapping some things. And also, somebody in the comments mentioned something very interesting as well. When it swaps and when it has a lot of things that should be on VRAM in the RAM, usually GPUs don't really consume their full TDP, and here we're seeing that. It's using like 175 watts right there, and sometimes when it's not really swapping a lot of things, it actually goes up to 200 watts, like we've seen in the previous gameplay at 1080p high settings without DLSS. So even with DLSS quality enabled, it is slightly, very, very slightly running out of VRAM. Okay, now I'm gonna disable DLSS, set it back to DLAA right here, and we're gonna play a little bit at 1440p resolution and the high settings preset again after I restart the game completely. And here we have it, guys. Ooh, RAM usage going up, 13.5 gigabytes there. Okay, we already know what's happening there. I have already explained, so I'm not gonna touch on that many times more in this video. Let's do this now. 50s over here. Yeah, that's expected, right? We were getting 60s at the 1080p resolution native, so we dropped about like 10-15 frames per second for 1440p, which isn't really that big of a drop, honestly. It seems like this game is kind of like Forza Horizon 5. If you drop the resolution or if you increase the resolution, it doesn't dip the FPS down to the same values as other titles do. So it's still playable like this. Unfortunately, we got that VRAM utilization issue. Frame time consistency isn't as good either. I can see a little bit more spikes, you know, on the frame time graph, which indicates stuttering issues, but again, those are very minor, especially if you compare them to most games released this year and last year that stutter all over the place for no apparent good reason, right? This game, even with the VRAM swapping stuff and stuttering a little bit because of it, it doesn't feel stuttery, okay? It feels really, really good. If I disabled the frame time graph over there, I wouldn't really feel much in terms of frame time inconsistencies. And this is native resolution as well. If you use some DLSS quality, VRAM won't really swap as often because it's going to render the game at 900 something p, I think. That's it, like quality DLSS at 1440p, maybe 896p, something like that along those lines, which is lower than 1080p resolution, but it will look way better than 1080p as well because 1440p is just gorgeous, even with DLSS quality, and it really, really works in this game as well. The DLAA and DLSS implementations here in this particular title are absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, I guess that's about it for the 1440p native results at high settings. Oh boy, I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Let's go, ally. Everything is okay. Yep. Time for DLSS quality here at 1440p resolution. Yes, 1440. And let's do it. DLSS quality right there. I am going to restart because we already swapped some things into the RAM there. And here we have it. Now we're seeing very similar results to what we saw at 1080p resolution, guys. 60s to 70s. Yet it looks way better. Once again, oh my gosh, this is exactly the same as 1080p actually. Wow. Very good. That means that we will probably see like 60 plus FPS all of the time right here. And that's absolutely insane. Also, this little settlement area is very intensive, of course. We should probably go and check out that huge building over there. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Ooh, 60 FPS, little stutter drop down our FPS there. Ooh, another one. Okay, that's what you get with 8 GB cards, unfortunately. But again, compared to other titles, it's very, very playable and very, very smooth. Now, it does dip a little bit. I thought it wouldn't because at 1080p resolution, it really didn't drop, you know. But yeah, it seems like in some areas at least, oh my god, it can't even dip down into the 40s. It is swapping a ton of stuff, guys. Did you see that? Power utilization went down. The RAM usage went up to 14 GB and VRAM is at 7.5 gigs. Whoa, I did not expect that. Maybe this little area is just super, super intensive. Interesting. And remember, guys, we're seeing all of these little issues and little inconsistencies and little VRAM swaps in high settings. If I was using very high settings, which is a terrible idea with an 8 GB GPU, what the hell is that? An egg? Robot egg? But yeah, don't do very high settings with an 8 GB GPU. The 12 GB GPU will be absolutely fine with the very high settings preset, even at 4K resolution, as I showed with the 4070 Super, for example. But yeah, very high, even at 1080p, is a bit too much. But still, high settings look very, very good. There's no problem with that. If you're not licking walls and stuff like that, you're not really gonna notice that the textures aren't as good as they could have been. Moving on, at least in these forest areas right here, with a lot of detail still, it doesn't really drop from the 60 FPS mark, so it's very, very stable still. Ooh, that was the biggest stutter that I've seen so far. Kind of looking like the normal things that happen every 10 seconds in other releases, right? Holy crap! Should we actually, guys? Yeah, just stand there and keep getting hit with my arrows, please. Yeah, that's exactly what I want you to do. Please don't come towards me. Don't come towards me. Wait, what is he doing? Is he gonna fart? What is happening? What are you doing? Why? What the heck is going on? Is he attacking the ground? I don't know. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait. Oh, boy. Can I ride you, buddy? Get over here. Oh, my God. It's so detailed, by the way. Wow. This is gorgeous. Damn, guys. See, and even if it does drop here and there into the 50s, it's not the end of the world, really. Like, it is dropping slightly, but I am... Oh my gosh! I am focusing more on the gameplay at the moment, and I don't really care if it's dropping or not. Just enjoy your game. You know? Don't stand around looking at the FPS like I do. You're not going to enjoy it as much as you could enjoy it. And come on, that one is almost dead. I feel like I'm disrupting the environment right here. These guys were just chilling, living their lives, eating trees or whatever they eat. Probably not trees because there's trees right here. Yeah. Oh boy! Oh, more explosions! This is lovely, actually. I love it. Whoa! That's a sick thumbnail right there. Thank you. Unfortunately, we didn't get 69 FPS average at the end of it. Huh. Sad. I'm actually gonna look at this guy just so we make it 69. There we go. 69 FPS average. Perfect experience. Well, not really perfect because it drops a little bit, but, you know, it is definitely very playable. I don't have a problem with this. Now, lastly, I'm going to set it to 4K resolution, guys, and I'm going to disable the anti-aliasing here, because DLAA is a little bit more intensive than off. I really don't want to lower the texture quality to medium, because from high to medium is a huge difference, okay? I restarted everything, and we're in the loading screen, and the RAM usage is already higher than it should be. Oh boy, going up to almost 15 gigabytes of usage there. All right, and we're getting 30-ish frames per second. I mean, that's not bad. If it manages 30 plus all of the time, I'll be impressed, but it's dropping. Yeah, okay. 29 already. Yeah, with a little stutters happening here and there, it's probably gonna dip down into the 20s very often, guys. Ooh, 15.5 gigabytes of RAM usage. Interesting. VRAM, though, just dipped down from 7 gigabytes there. Look at that. It's swapping a lot of things. That's why it's happening, guys. And in result of that, we're getting very, very low FPS at the moment. 20s. It doesn't really go back up from 20s, at least looking in this direction, guys. That is unfortunate. Had they put 12 gigabytes on this GPU, we'd be completely fine still. You know what? Reviewers, when this GPU came out back in 2020, I believe, so 4 years ago. It's a 4-year-old GPU. What? This is a 4-year-old GPU? I'm noted. No way. I'm gonna check. Wait a second. RTX 3060 Ti release date. Yeah, December 1st, 2020. It's on its way to be 4 years old. What the actual hell, guys? Like, this is very good performance for a 4-year-old GPU, right? It just doesn't seem that old to me in my head. Alright guys, I just set it to 4K using the DLSS performance and restarted the game, and we're now getting 40s looking in this direction, not bad. We're getting like 40s still looking in this direction, also not bad, down into the 30s sometimes. I'm gonna start counting our FPS, let's go down there. It seems like this is going to be playable here. VRAM, it's already swapping a lot though. 14 gigabytes on the RAM usage there, but yeah, it's more playable, definitely a lot more playable, and I am really surprised that the DLSS performance is looking so damn good. This is great implementation again of DLSS, so I wouldn't really have a problem, guys, playing with DLSS performance at 4K resolution. Obviously at lower resolutions, avoid DLSS performance, but at 4K it actually looks really good. Still, it is dropping into the 30s right here, guys, so it's not really a perfect experience, but I guess if you lock the FPS to 30, it's gonna be stable, and it should deliver a pretty good visual fidelity gameplay experience at the 4K resolution, with very close visuals to that as well. Now, you really gotta set texture quality to medium if you want to play at 4K, unfortunately. I'm gonna do that, exit the game, restart everything, and you know what? At the same time, I'm gonna use the DLSS performance here at 4K resolution, medium textures, everything else on high. Hopefully it's gonna be smooth and stable and around 60 FPS. That's what I want to aim for at least. And I think it's just barely maxing out the VRAM. It's not really maxing out because, okay, it just swapped some things there, but yeah, it is as stable, I guess, as like 1440p was with high textures. But again, now the textures don't really look anything special. They are pretty rough in the edges. Look at that rope over there. Yeah, the barrels here. Everything looks way worse. I think on a 4K monitor, I would rather play at 1440p DLSS quality with high textures and high settings than at 4K resolution with medium textures, everything else on high, and DLSS performance. The DLSS is not the problem though. It looks insanely good at performance. I wasn't really expecting this, honestly. Like, it's looking fantastic, really, really close to the quality DLSS stuff and really close to native resolution stuff as well. And it's surprising because this is such a detailed game that I thought that performance DLSS would definitely show some weirdness, some loss in detail, but that's not the case really. And it is stable at around like 50 to 60 frames per second most of the time. Yeah, with some drops sometimes into the 40s, but I'm fine with this. Again, for a single player game, it works all right. The last thing I'm gonna do is like 1440p with quality DLSS right here, and the medium textures as well as high settings, everything else. So let's try that out. I'm gonna restart once again, and yeah, the VRAM usage shouldn't really max out because we're using medium textures. Again, I think I would just live with the little stuttering issues here and there at 1440p. It wasn't too bad, and it definitely made the game look quite a bit better, right? But everything else still on high, so the lighting, the ambient occlusion, the shadows, and stuff like that, all of that is gonna look perfect. It's just the textures will lack a lot of fidelity, as you can see. Yeah, quite a bit rough, right? Still, guys, it doesn't really drop from 60 FPS anymore here using these settings. It is very, very stable, and we successfully removed any of the little stutters that happened previously at the 1440p resolution, even with DLSS. And now the frame time graph is buttery smooth, just like it was at the 1080p native resolution. I guess since a lot of people won't really play with these settings, I'm gonna leave it right there for this video, guys. Thanks very much for watching. You already know it's not really gonna dip down from 60 FPS here using these, so if you're interested in these, go ahead, play like that. It's gonna be perfect. It's a bit of a shame, once again, the 8GB aren't really enough for high textures at 1440p and above, but it is what it is. 8GB should have been left back in 2020. Nvidia, please. Next generation, I hope to see 8GB only on like the 5040 if they release that, or maybe on the 5050, but at least give the 60 series 12 gigs next gen and 16GB on like the 70 series and more on the 80 series. That's what I would like to see. So that's been it. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye bye.